We covered Mount Ararat, which was where the ark had landed. We talked about Mount Carmel, which was a wooded, beautiful region near Jerusalem. We're going now into Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is a very important biblical mountain in the Old Testament, and there's also mention of it in the New Testament. And this is what Mount Sinai would look like. Now, the exact location of Mount Sinai is not known. And I touched on that last time because when the Israelites were coming from Egypt, they took an unknown tract in order to get to where they were going there. So they're not exactly sure where the modern day location of Mount Sinai is. But it was an important place. It was a place that God called out in Exodus 3:12. I will surely be with you, God said, and this will be the sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, all of you will worship God on this mountain. And they're talking about Mount Sinai. So God had established this as a holy mountain with his intentions already set forth when he brought the children out of Egypt, that it was going to be this culminating event where they would worship him on this mountain. So the importance of Mount Sinai biblically is where it's the place where God met man. It's the place where he came down. God had already revealed himself to Moses in the burning bush and gave him his covenant name, spoke to him personally, and delivered that. And now in Mount Sinai is the place where God has came down and consumed this mountain, where people can look to it, and it's where God's covenant is going to be set forth. And we see that here, and we talked about that last time too. This is just kind of a review of where God delivered to Moses the Mosaic covenant. And he set forth all of the rules and all of the laws and customs by which he wanted to establish this people. And this spans from chapters 19 of Exodus all the way to chapters 31. And when we read those, some of them I think can make sense to us, and others, are just seem more archaic. Just because this is an ancient culture, we can't relate to and have no idea really of what their life was like and what their customs were. We can have an insight into that biblically, but it was we take away everything that we know now, and these people were just a dwelling people. So God is trying to set up a culture and laws by which they are to live by. And he does so over the span of time here, enough to where the people get restless that their leader, that Moses, is gone, and they develop and make an idol of themselves in order to worship it, even in the midst of all this happening. But Mount Sinai also transcends from the Old Testament into the New Testament. And Paul talks about it in Galatians chapter 4, 21 through 26, in which he relates to Mount Sinai. And he talks about, he's trying to deliver to the people a representation of what Mount Sinai was and what God is calling us into the New Testament. And I want to take some time to go through these verses because it's complicated. There's a lot of things going on, both in the purpose of what Paul is trying to deliver, but also the illustrations that he uses that's pertinent to what we're talking about Mount Sinai. So if you all will, go ahead and turn to Galatians chapter 4, 21. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. If you all can go ahead and turn to that if you just want to mark it. But actually where I'm going to first, I'm going to illustrate out what happened on Mount Sinai in the Old Testament, and then we'll go on to the New Testament. So my next slide here is what happened originally at Mount Sinai. So God had said, the sign that you're going to be delivered, you're going to worship me on this mountain. And when he appeared to the people on this mountain, this is what happened. Mount Sinai was completely enveloped in smoke because the Lord came down on it in fire. Its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in the thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai at the top of the mountain. Then the Lord summoned Moses to the top of the mountain, and he went up. The Lord directed Moses, "Go down and warn the people not to break through to see the Lord. Otherwise, many of them will die." God put a boundary around the mountain and considered it holy. So you can just imagine, the power that's being illustrated here. God is bringing himself down, and he does so in fire, consumes the entire mountain up. And these people are all gathered around. And I think, we're so judgmental about the Israelite people, because they, there were all these plagues that was brought through Egypt. They parted the Red Sea, and God delivered them out of slavery. And even then, and seeing God present himself in this way, they still found other ways to turn from him. It's like their heart wasn't with them, and we're so judgmental on that. But I just feel like we are the Israelite people. God has done amazing things for us in our lives, and as time goes on, we just turn from that and we grow cool on it, and we fail to recognize the power that God has brought us through in certain things. But I think all of us here hold to that, and knowing from what he's brought us through, he can do it again. He can do it again. Amen. So I have this app, and it generates AI images. And I know there's a lot of fear about AI and what it's going to do, but I happen to like this app, and I'll tell you why. Because you can put prompts into it of what you want a picture to look like, and prompts that you want to generate. So, for instance, I have had a few dreams where I really felt like it was a God-given dream. I have crazy dreams all the time. I was telling one to John this morning about a spider web, but it wasn't religious at all. but it's like, and I don't know if you all have ever experienced this, but it's a dream that comes to you and it feels different. Like, that the Lord is communicating to you something. It has meaning behind it. And so I've described what's happening in these dreams in this app, and it shows me an image of what I dreamed, and it's amazing. I actually am working on something, to talk about one of those things. So in this same vein, I was putting things from this description here into this AI image generator of a mountain on fire, of thunder, and of smoke here. I think neither one of them obviously could really be perfect to emulate exactly what that looked like. But I feel like for us in our minds, we develop, from reading that verse, what could have happened. But to see it and kind of get an idea of what that would look like, I especially like the image on the right because of all the people that are surrounded at the bottom. They are all witnesses to this event. And the Jewish people